former UT coach Ray Trail, from the Daily Times, Marcus Fitzsimmons, and Troy Prove O'Haron.
Happy New Year, everybody, and greetings from the Blueticks Tavern in downtown Maryville. I'm Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, along with Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, and this is the Goatee Sports Page. Tennessee and Iowa are set to go in the Citrus Bowl, and we're going to the whistle blows. And now let's set the lineup card, sponsored by Blunt Partnership. The University of Tennessee Sports Report, sponsored by the Cherokee Group and the Murphy's Bobcat SEC Notebook. Lead off with Marcus Fitzsimmons and Donnie Moore. Today we'll size up the Citrus Bowl as Tennessee and Iowa meet and throw in some other UT news. Donnie Moore will update us on high school scores and news from around the area. And then Mark It Down with Marcus Fitzsimmons, sponsored by Mandy B. Street Realty, features some New Year's resolutions. The Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment will be on the docket, as Marcus Fitzsimmons will be up as Marcus takes the TSSAA behind the woodshed. Donnie Moore returns to discuss headlines from around the sports world before the Boyd Sports Spotlight shines on a look at Tennessee's football schedule next year. And finally, the bowl prediction segment closes the show as the panel weighs in on some bowl picks. And now it's time for the Cherokee Group UT Sports Report and the Murphy's Bobcat SEC Notebook, featuring Marcus Fitzsimmons and Donnie Moore. Good morning and Happy New Year to both of you guys, huh?
Hey, good morning. Happy New Year to all here at the Sports Page, and to Tony Iruli, who's not with us today. He's somewhere down in Florida, basking in the cold weather down there.
Yeah, he's been traveling all over the place the holidays.
He has.
Yeah, he travels more than Santa Claus, doesn't he?
I'm telling you, he does. He's a traveling man.
Yeah. Well, it's cold and blustery outside. It's an Indiana morning, huh? makes me homesick, Marty.
Yeah. Well, if that's what makes you homesick, Mike, welcome home.
Yeah, really.
Some of these
I can do without these days.
I always, when it's cold like that, I always tell people down here, while we took our shirts off and played shirts and skins on the outdoor courts when it was this cold up in Indiana, shoveled the snow off. Huh?
You all shoveled the snow off. We just pounced it down with the ball.
Yeah.
Made it hard as ice and made it a little bit more easier to play the post that way.
Well, I'm going to start off with some letter rip here this morning, and I'm a huge fan of college football. I watch more college football than any other sport on any level. I like pretty much all that college football has to offer: rivalries between schools, the color and pageantry, the competition between conferences, the argument to who plays the best football in the country, and the controversies that surround the game. What I'm getting completely bored with in the game is the kicking of extra points. I have to sit through the formality of a kicked extra point and then have to go through what follows it, a boring commercial. It's time to move the extra point kick back to the 15 or 20-yard line. Kickers have progressed to that level, make the kick a little more of an exciting part of the game and a more challenging part of the game. If teams decide to go for two instead of kicking the extra point, that would be exciting too. Just get that dunk kick out of the college football formality. Marcus, it's just automatic. Seems to me like anymore. I mean,
pretty much.
92 to 94% of the kicks go through, and the rest of them that don't, it's pouring down rain, snowing, or the field's wet. Huh? I don't get it.
Well, the NFL has already made that adjustment, and to me, I see that like the three-point line, in that the NBA has one distance, college has another, international has another. I could see moving it back in college, maybe not as far as the NFL has, but moving it back and making it a little more challenging, or do away with it and don't make it an option. You go for two, and that's what your option is.
Yeah. Or how about flipping a coin, Donnie? We just flip a coin, see if you get the
flip a coin, see if you get one.
That would
not be a bad idea.
That'd be exciting. Well, I'll tell you what, the kickoff is almost as boring. They're just kicking the ball all the way through the end zone. And I thought that was one of the most exciting parts of football, was the run back on the kickoff. And now they're signaling for a catch down there to bring it out to the 25-yard line, or it just goes on through the end zone down there. So that's. And I promised I wasn't going to talk about that this morning, but it's
that rule changes for health reasons, and I think it's still so new. I don't think people have truly started gaming that rule yet give them time, and they'll figure out a way to do that. But the days of the kickoff being returned and that excitement and those collisions, I think, is pretty much over.
Yeah. While you're talking about extra points and not missing, since it being so easy, this would be a good time to congratulate the Daily Times Special Teams Player of the Year in high school would be Bacon Lauterbach from Alcoa. He did not miss an extra point all season long. So congratulations to Bacon Lauterbach from Alcoa.
And his streak actually, I talked to Bacon, and just a great kid.
He is. He's a great kid.
Every time I've talked to him, whether it was soccer or football, he's just always been phenomenal. Real humble kid. Never said he never even knew. Never even really kept track of what was going on.
He doesn't. He just goes out and does his job.
Going to some of the guys behind the scenes there at Alcoa who actually do keep track of those things and worry about streaks for the players. If you go back to the West game, not this year, but the year before,
right,
when he had the extra point blocked, that was the last time he had a kick that didn't go through in anything. Field goals or extra points.
Yeah.
And it's not the kicker's fault when it is blocked.
Sure.
It's still a team thing. The kicker doesn't make it if the line doesn't block, and there's a lot of things that still go into that. But not making the block up front is not the kicker's fault. No. So, for all practical purposes, the kid didn't miss one for 2 years.
Yeah. And as much as Alcoa scores, he's kicked a lot of extra points.
Yeah. Was there a commercial right after his kicks, or
you
were broadcasting the game? Was there a pause, or
not much, because they want to. These officials, Blount County officials, want to get these games done.
I could probably tolerate that as long as there wasn't a commercial.
There's not one on the jumbotron, but if you listen to Marty and Heath, I believe those extra points were sponsored by somebody.
They were. Yeah, we got it in there somewhere.
If it was me, I would have gone to Haggerty's Farm Sausage for this particular kicker and said, this is your kicker.
Here's your bacon.
Here's your extra points. You're our sponsor for the next 2 years.
I don't know. Extra points are sort of like my dad. He used to say, how much skill does it take for a 6'11" guy to jump up there and dunk the basketball? Does it take a lot of skill to do that? Well, let's talk about some basketball. This past Tuesday, the Tennessee Vol basketball team moved to number 6 in the AP poll. By golly, they beat Tarleton State, Marcus, and moved up. You can't beat that.
Sometimes you advance just by holding even.
True.
Especially, the volatility that goes on this time of year, especially with some of the other big matchups going on. And
I like that word, volatility.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be one of my key ones for 2024. I've already written that down. Came to me in the midst of my fluish slumber over the last few days. But, when everybody else you have people lose unexpectedly ahead of you, and you start moving up because you didn't lose, and even if you didn't play anybody, or even if in this case you played somebody, but you really didn't play anybody.
Yeah, you didn't play anybody. You didn't practice either. You didn't practice. You're off.
But sometimes that works to your advantage, playing those Thanksgiving tournaments, because it's that during Thanksgiving week we saw a lot of that moving up and down that followed the week after because good teams were playing each other. Well, you have the same thing going on to a lesser degree now at Christmas. But if you're not generally doing both of those Christmas and Thanksgiving tournaments, so if you played in Thanksgiving and went through it one way or another, you're going to see some movement in Christmas that can help move you back up for whatever you did during Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Donnie Moore, I'm not a big fan of taking all this time off. I don't see how it helps you. You're going to have to come back. You're going to have to hit the practice floor. You've been in a mood, a festive holiday mood. I've been there.
I know you have.
We
all have.
Listen, it's tough to come back.
It sure is.
And get out there on that practice floor and get yourself back into the groove.
Yeah.
Now, going way back, I'm going way back to when I was playing over there. We played a Christmas tournament every year. Mm-hmm. We had the Vol Classic right before Christmas, if you remember.
I do.
A couple of days before Christmas. And
I'd like to see them bring it back.
And then the 27th and 28th of December was our big trip.
Sure.
They took, I said, sophomore year, we went to California, played out there in the Los Angeles Classic, and then we went to Philadelphia next year and played, and then we went to New York my senior year. So we were playing, this week from Christmas on. And Marcus did some crazy things. Well, one year, I think it was my sophomore year, we played the Ball Classic, and that game was on the 23rd of December. And I'd never missed Christmas at home. And I was vowed and determined I wasn't going to miss Christmas. So after the ball game, Eddie Velker, I got in my car, and I drove Eddie Velker to Louisville, Kentucky, and I stayed all night at his house, got up on Christmas Eve morning. It was snowing. I drove all the way to Greenfield. I had Christmas Eve with my family. I got up Christmas morning, had Christmas morning, and I had Christmas lunch. They had it like 12 or 1 o'clock. At 7 o'clock on that night, I got on a plane in Indianapolis and flew back to Knoxville. At 8:30 or 9 o'clock, I was on the practice floor. We had a practice on Christmas Day to get ready for tournament. And then the day after Christmas, we got up at 7 o'clock and flew to California. Now, I would not do that 3-day trip or that 3-day schedule again, Marcus, for any amount of money.
That was tough.
And then my junior year, senior year, we were in Philadelphia and New York on Christmas Day. We flew in there, so I wasn't able to go home. But it seems to me like not as many teams are playing, as you mentioned, between that Christmas and the New Year's. I don't know if it's the bowl games or they're just taking the time off or what.
It's, it's not I won't call it a conspiracy, but it's the network programming, which is over the holidays they have, with all this additional bowl schedule to accommodate that they're paying for, ESPN and now Fox are allocating their time towards college football. Then you still have to work in the NFL with their extra games that they didn't used to play. I mean, they weren't playing a 17-game schedule when you were playing. So now their seasons are out there. And college basketball's, like I said, they're pushing more and more to them doing things around Thanksgiving and opening up that week and the days after for basketball, because football's taking that old holiday slot.
Yeah.
And TNT and TBS have to play A Christmas Story 400 times.
Well, I have no problem with that, because if you don't, you might shoot your eye out.
You might do.
I can tell you this, for anybody that hasn't been in the New York airport or the airport in Philadelphia or the airport in L.A. on Christmas Day, so to speak, there's nobody there. There is nobody. That was one of the strangest things, was to fly into New York, get off the plane, and there's nobody there. There's nobody there.
Wow.
I mean, you find a taxi and you go to your hotel room and you get changing your clothes or whatever, and you go to the practice floor and you get ready to play, and these coaches always said, well, we go to New York and we go to L.A. and we try that when they recruit you. And then you go to those places and you're like, well, I didn't see anything. All we did was play. I didn't get to see it. I saw the Empire State Building, and by golly, I think I saw Central Park and maybe Shea Stadium and Yankee Stadium from the airplane, as we took off or we landed. So I don't know. Maybe it's different now. I saw on television where Tennessee seems to be having a pretty good time down there in the getting ready for the Citrus Bowl. So maybe they make it more enjoyable. Hey, let's talk about Tennessee and the football. Tennessee set to take on Iowa in the Citrus Bowl. The game will be January the 1st, and kickoff is set for 1 o'clock. The game can be seen on ABC. Tennessee comes into the contest with an 8-4 record and ranked 21st, and Iowa comes in ranked 17th with a 10-3 worksheet. Marcus, I see a couple of big stories in this game, and you may see some more, but I don't know which is the bigger. All those players that are opting out for Tennessee, and I mean, first of all, they got a beat-up line. Their secondary is they're in the transfer portal. They're pretty much gone, and then your running backs are, they're opting out. So I know that's a big story. And then you got Nico Imalava, and he is ready to make his debut at quarterback. I don't know which is the biggest story, him starting the quarterback or all those players they don't have.
Whichever one determines the outcome of the game will be the biggest story. We'll know January 2nd what the biggest story was out of this.
I think both of them are a little shaky. He hadn't started, and the other guys are not going to be there. That's so right. I don't know.
I mean, everybody's talking about Iowa's offense is so bad that even depleted Tennessee secondary, even though they're going to be starting freshmen out there who don't, and some of them don't have a lot of experience, are still going to be able to keep Iowa at bay. Maybe. I mean, Tennessee's secondary has made some quarterbacks look really good this year. I don't know if they're capable of making this particular quarterback look good, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. But then, everybody clamored all season long, when are we going to see Nico? When are we going to see Nico? Every time there was an opportunity and he didn't get out there, everybody was grousing about it. Everybody was grousing after the first game where Dylan Sampson had such a breakout performance there with some dynamic plays. The rest of the year it was, well, why aren't they giving Sampson some carries? Why is Jabari still doing this? Why is, well, you're going to get your wish. You're going to get your preview. And, and I think I've written this earlier in some of the markets was, this is the preseason game, and Tennessee can either, take advantage of this as a preseason game for 2024 with this backfield, because that's the backfield you can expect next year, or they can kind of mess around and try to keep doing the same things they did all season and try to make those guys fit those roles. Who knows?
Yeah. Donnie, what does this game mean to these two football teams? I mean, and when you get right down to it, Tennessee's not going to be the same team they had all year. They're not going to be the same. They don't have the same personnel. This is a different club. Iowa probably they're a little bit more intact. But what does the game mean?
Well, the game, of course, means a lot to both teams as far as recruiting goes. The extra practice time it means a lot to both teams as far as that goes. To Iowa, it means it's a prestige game. If you beat an SEC team, even a middle of the road SEC team, it's a big deal to you. Because an SEC team, even a middle-of-the-road SEC team, is still an SEC team. And if you can pull off a victory right there, it's going to mean some high dollars to you as far as your recruiting goes and as far as your prestige goes.
Yeah. A lot of Tennessee fans, I think, going into this game, they really don't give Iowa a lot of respect.
No.
They didn't give Purdue a lot of respect when they played over in the Music City Bowl. And,
no.
Tennessee didn't come out of that game, but and it seems like we've played. If we go down there and play in the Citrus Bowl, we're not getting Michigan, we're not getting Ohio State, we're not getting Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
We're usually getting an Iowa or a Northwestern.
Now.
Oh, wait a minute.
Now, but in the 90s, the Tennessee played those three schools you just mentioned in the Citrus Bowl in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
They played Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State.
That's what I'm saying. They usually get those teams there, and they got Iowa again. Now,
and even though Iowa's ranked above Tennessee this year.
Yeah, and I've got some interesting facts on Iowa. Maybe this will put a little bit more in perspective. Hey, this team had 20 players named to the All-Big Ten team. That's pretty impressive. Kurt Ferentz, the Hawkeye head coach, has been in 13 bowl games, been in bowl games in each of the last 10 years. Only 8 other FBS programs can say this. He won the Big Ten West title. 7th time Iowa has won 10 games in a season, 5 under Ferentz. With a Citrus Bowl win, Iowa can reach 11 wins, mark for the 4th time in program history. So that's something to play for. Mm-hmm. Ferentz has 196 career wins in the Big Ten Conference, trailing only, this is impressive, he's trailing only Woody Hayes at 205 and Alonzo Stagg at 199. Now, there's a couple of big names right there.
Huge names.
Yeah, Ferentz has 10 career bowl game victories, tied with Joe Paterno. There's another big name, as the most bowl wins as a member of the Big Ten Conference. So, Marcus, this is just not your everyday coach and program coming in here. This is a pretty established program up there at Iowa. I know they can't throw the ball, and they probably can't score if you didn't even put your defense out on the field. From what I've seen, if the game can be 14-6 or 14-13, that's fine with them. But I watched them play Michigan. Of course, I think Michigan won the game 26-0 or something like that. But for a long time it was 14-0. In that football game up until about the 4th quarter. but Iowa can't throw the ball. That poor quarterback. Is that field down there dirt or artificial turf? You know?
I don't know.
Well, if it's dirt, I'm going to tell you right now, the night crawlers are going to be to the top because that guy's going to throw that football right into the ground a lot. They just can't throw the ball, Marcus. But on the other hand, you're saying, well, we should really do. Well, we know what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball. But what did Missouri do against Tennessee? They ran the ball. They ran the ball.
So
now,
you looking for a game like Missouri and Ohio State last night?
I don't know. It's going to be real. Yeah, Schrader last night. Schrader shredded.
The shredder.
The shredder shredded the Buckeyes last night running the football. That back. I don't know. And Iowa's going to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, and they're going to run the clock. And if they don't get first downs, they've got the best kicker. In college football, he won the Guy Award. What's the name of that? Was the Guy Award for kickers?
Ray Guy
Award. He won that award, and they're going to kick that ball down there as far as they can kick it, and they're going to make you go 70 or 80 yards to score. I mean, this is probably going to be a game that it's like pulling teeth, Marcus. Huh?
Maybe. I think this is going to be a closer game than what people are thinking. And I say that just because every time these two teams have met, that's what's happened. We've ended up with a fairly good game, and they haven't met that often. But thinking about this one, I actually had the videotape of this from when I was a kid, and I pulled it out and watched a couple minutes of it because I actually found a VCR in the house that still works, if you believe that. But the 1987 Kickoff Classic, back when we used to have a classic that was an actual extra game.
Yeah.
It was played up in New Jersey at Netherlands, but Tennessee played Iowa that year. They had just played them 3 or 4 years before in the Peach Bowl and lost by 1. And Majors was playing them again. They ended up winning that one by 1 to even the series with them. And I think they played in the Tax Slayer Bowl 8 or 9 years ago, which wasn't as exciting. But comparing this team, because of the changes, where you've got an unknown quarterback, you've got a banged-up but veteran offensive line that's had a couple weeks to get healthy again, it feels like there's some similarities there where it was just a grinded-out game of whoever could run the ball was eventually going to win. And it feels like whoever can run the ball, because as much as we talk about Heupel, when Tennessee can't run, they haven't been able to throw.
It's true that.
So this could be a really interesting game just to see what Tennessee is able to do against that defense and to see if they can really stop Iowa.
Yeah. I think where Tennessee has somewhat of an advantage, Donnie, is in the athleticism and the quickness of the team. That's Southeastern Conference football versus Big Ten football, where you're more of a power game, run the ball, that type of thing.
Versus quickness.
I think that's where Tennessee. And if Tennessee can get out there and get a couple of quick scores, Iowa's not a very good team coming back.
Not a
you get them down a couple of scores. That's like getting down 24-0 for most teams because they just can't come back quick on somebody getting out of the gate.
If they're down 14, there's still a lot of fight in that team. But Michigan showed what happened. I mean, it's not like Iowa gave up, but some of that steam came off as the points started piling up. So yeah, if Tennessee could come out and actually strike them fast, because Heupel would rather have a 60-yard drive, but he's not uncomfortable with going 90 yards and throwing deep. So, I mean, it's not like Tennessee sees down and distance as all that much of an obstacle. We have a abysmal record at fourth down to show for that. But there's a philosophy of, it doesn't matter how far we have to go. We can go. We can go however far you need us to.
Yeah, Tennessee's going to be without running back Jalen Wright, Jabari Small. Both of them are opting out, and quarterback Joe Milton is opting out the Citrus Bowl. And I've already talked about guys opting out. I think I had it on Let Her Rip there a few weeks back. I'm not a fan of opting out. I'm really not a fan of guys opting out and then paying their way down there so they can walk around the sidelines watching the team play. I just think they're letting their team down and their fans down. The fans want to go down there and watch the team that played all year. They don't want to go down there and watch, and I don't know if this is the right term or not, but the scrubs play. and get on the field. I don't like it.
They don't want to go watch a JV game.
Tennessee's got this saying over there. That I heard it mentioned for all three of these guys. Well, they're Vols for life. Well, are they? Are they VFLs or are they VFMs? Are they Vols for life or are they Vols for myself? I don't know. But listen, if you're going to opt out, why didn't you opt out of all them 4 games during the year you could have got hurt in that didn't amount to anything? Mm-hmm. And then you're saying, well, I'm going to opt out of this game, but I'm going to play in the North-South All-Star game. Well, can you not get hurt in that game? I would have thought that from Milton's standpoint and these guys' standpoint, they're playing a ranked Iowa team. Wouldn't it be better to play in that game and show what you can do rather than be sitting over there watching? Look at that Missouri game last night. Cook played quarterback. Schrader played back in the backfield. And Schrader, I think he just upped his pro market.
He did. No one from Missouri opted out.
No one. And last year when Alabama played and they were disappointed because they were in the playoffs, not one guy opted out, Mark. Nope. Not one guy opted out. So I think it's bad for college football, and I just think it's just I think if you sign on to play at a school, you're obligated to finish it out. That's the way I feel.
I won't argue with you on that point. I will say they took the team into consideration in their timing of publicly announcing the decision. Tennessee coaching staff did not act with surprise or dismay. Their practice schedule did not reflect, and the practice time has not reflected like this was a surprise to them. It was a heck of a surprise to Iowa, though, when the news broke this week, because they came out of practice saying, what? You could see in interviews they had, disbelief in their eyes that Milton wasn't going to be the quarterback. So they've wasted half their practice time on a quarterback they're not going to face.
Yeah, well, that's an advantage to Tennessee because they don't really know very much about – we don't know much about Nico either. We haven't seen him.
Well, you can go back and watch his high school tape. I mean, I guess that can help you some, but that's the only thing you've got to work with.
But you take guys opting out. Look at Ohio State last night. Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't play in that football game, and their first-string quarterback, has been there 2 years, and he's lost 2 games in 2 years, and he's in the transfer portal. And they're trying to put a team together in the Coach Day. He's taking all kinds of heat because he's lost, 3 out of 4 to Michigan, so he goes and gets beat by Missouri last night. In a game where he was playing a third-string quarterback at the end of the game. Now he's going to take some more criticism in his program because of what happened last night. I just think it's totally unfair. And Florida State's going to go into a football game today against Georgia, and they've got a bunch of prime players out on there, and they should have been in the playoffs. And they're a 20.5-point underdog against Georgia. It's just sorry. That's all I can say about it.
Well,
sorry.
The system's broken. This is a problem that was broken before the NIL and all this came along. I think the market will fix itself when it comes to these, when bowl games matter, and when the playoff is expanded. I think with the playoff you'll see guys hanging around, and I think you will see collectives adjust their agreements with players to give them extra incentive to play in bowl games.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet, but I just see that in the future.
And I know we got to go to break, but let's talk about – I just want to hit the transfer portal before I get at 2,000 players in the transfer portal. 2,000 players are affecting these bowl games and so forth. Take that and take that
if you look at the numbers from last year, I mean, there were a lot of those guys who went in the portal who found no place to land.
Right.
So you're basically, you're shorting you're taking away your opportunity for free education.
Yeah. You're
giving it away because you're depending on somebody else wanting you.
Right.
And if they're not going to want you and want to give you a scholarship, you've given away. I mean, it's become all about the game. That's why I said this thing is going to end up correcting itself one way or another.
Yep. Hey, we'll take a timeout here, and when we return, Donnie Moore will provide high school scores and sports news from around the area. And veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons joins us with his feature Mark It Down. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, Blount County Sports Voice, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
It's payday, and on payday, you want to have access to your money right away. When you enroll for direct deposit at Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union, your money comes to you with no waiting. It's the fastest and most secure way to get paid. Getting set up is easy. All you need is your account number and our routing number. Find out more at tvacreditunion.com.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Some restrictions apply. Ask for details.
Since 1925, Anderson Lumber in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. But did you know Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store? You can stop in anytime and see our incredible kitchen showroom. From floors to cabinets and everything in between, Anderson Lumber's experts can help you design your dream kitchen. And then our install team will make it a reality. For anything home, we welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber, since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com. Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system, and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply.
Welcome back to the Goatee Sports page, and it's time for Donnie Moore to come in and talk a little bit about what's going on in the area as far as basketball scores. And Donnie, I know that it's been difficult because we got a lot of teams that they're playing out of state. A lot of times we don't get a lot of those scores, but I know that I want to mention the Heritage girls were over at Lenoir City, and they had a fairly successful tournament over there. Men's Central got a powerhouse. They've got a fine basketball team. They beat Rick Howard's bunch there the other night, but that's the only loss they had, I think, in that tournament. And, of course, they won their tournament at Heritage High School, so they've had a pretty successful holiday run. They have.
McMinn Central, of course, coached by John Morgan, who I went to high school with at Friendsville. Called him Bones.
Yeah, he's been down there longer than the school, hasn't he?
He has. He's been in there a long time. Johnny's a good basketball
You're going to prop
coach.
him up one of these days down there.
He's a good basketball coach.
He really is. He's got those girls. I mean, year in and year out, it just seems like they reload down there.
They sure do. Congratulations to John. He's a great guy. I always enjoy talking to him when I'm around him. But all local teams are currently playing out of town in holiday classics and tournaments. Here's the lineup. Alcoa girls, Maryville girls, and Heritage girls and boys are at the Lenoir City High School Christmas Tournament. Maryville boys are playing in the Arby's Classic at Tennessee High School. Where's Tennessee High School, Marcus?
It's up in the Tri-Cities.
It's Bristol.
That's actually the
Bristol. Yeah.
That's actually the Arby's Classic that's going on up in the Tri-Cities.
Yep.
I think they ended their run last night. Took a loss back. I think I can look that one up for you.
Okay, Marcus is. I'm going to kick it to Marcus here in a minute, and he's going to give you some specific scores. Alcoa boys are competing in the Beach Bash Classic in Panama City, Florida. They're down in sunny Florida. Not too warm down there right now, I don't think.
Well, Coach was talking last week about that trip. I think they were looking forward to the bonding time as much as
they are. They sure are.
Getting away from town for a little bit together.
Yeah.
Why do they always go south? Why don't they go up into Kentucky or Indiana or high.
Because it's cold and snowy up there.
Well, they play pretty good high school basketball up there.
They do.
They want to play some good teams. Go on up there. Don't go down to Florida.
But
well, all of our teams
a lot of our teams go south and play some good basketball down there. Maryville Christian School is playing in the Berean Christmas tournament up in Kentucky. So they're going up there.
Yeah.
They're going up in Kentucky to play. And William Blunt girls and boys have been playing in the Hilton Sandestin Beach Blowout.
Their favorite
Florida.
holiday trip.
That's a yearly trip for them. They go down there every year. They make their reservations early to go down to Destin.
Do you know? Do they do like a charter bus, or is that a caravan of all caravans?
I think that's a caravan.
Okay.
They take a lot of vans down there in a caravan. But they did well. I think both of them came in third.
That'd be a good finish for them. That's a tough tournament to play in.
It is. Some good teams down there.
You know, last year they took that overtime loss that came back and helped them several times during the regular season.
Yeah,
they mentioned
sure did.
what they learned in that particular game down there in the quarterfinals.
Yep, sure did. But Marcus, you got some specific scores to mention
well,
for us?
I've got a couple. I'm going through.
Okay.
Alcoa girls lost to CAK in the Lenoir City Christmas Classic, 43-41.
Tough game.
Yeah, that would have been a close one for them. Heritage girls, as Mike mentioned, finished off their run in the Lenoir City Christmas Classic. They beat Kingston last night, 72-29.
Wow. Took it to them, didn't they? Alcoa girls can score some points.
And the team that put them into the consolation bracket, McMinn Central, they beat Coffee County last night, 69-33. So that meeting between McMinn Central and Heritage may have been the game of the girls bracket. Maybe it didn't get to the championship for that pairing, but still a good showing for them. Lenoir City girls beat Maryville for 51-47.
That's a good game.
So that one went down to the wire. And let me just scroll to make sure we're not missing anybody else on that out-of-town list that reported in.
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't always report their scores, and you know, we don't know about them if they don't. So.
Yeah, we're kind of depending on the posting here at this time of year because even then the coaches have a lot on their mind when you're traveling.
Boy, that's for sure.
Let me look through here. We got looking for the Tri-City score for. There it is. Maryville Christian did win over Knox Ambassadors last night, 70-34. And then Alcoa, they've actually got their Beach Bash score on here.
Oh, good.
They beat Darlington, Georgia last night, 67-62.
Darlington, Georgia. Well, good for them. Congratulations.
And there we go. Independence beat Maryville boys last night, 69-53 in the Arby's Classic to conclude their run up there.
Very good.
Which I think that's that's fifth loss in 6 games for Maryville after that 10-0 start.
Well, maybe they'll turn it around here and get things going.
All of them have been against really good teams.
Yeah, they play good competition.
I think Alcoa is the only one a school that's in a lower classification because that loss was to a good Independence team, and I think they played 2 more out of Murfreesboro in the last couple games as well. We'll make sure we don't have any more of the boys' scores showing up yet.
We appreciate Marcus.
Upperman beat the Heritage boys 47-42 in the Lenoir City tournament as well.
Okay, very good. The Bees stung the Mountaineers,
which dropped Heritage to 10-10. But you know they had a really good run there where they won 5 or 6 in a row, going through middle of last week. So that's a nice surge for them to be at 10 wins and playing with some of these teams that we haven't necessarily seen them play with last year. But I think that rounds off most of the scoreboard of what's actually been posted so far this year.
Thanks, Marcus. We appreciate you helping us out with our update right there. All right, we're going to tell you that you're listening to WKCE 92.5 FM and 1180 AM Mid-Century Radio, and now we're going to slide it on over to our veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons for his feature, Mark it down.
Well, I'm going to lead this off with the Daily Times Players of the Week, Players of the Year, and the all Daily Times teams were announced starting on Christmas Eve, and
They were.
came out over the last few days, and that's always an undertaking for the paper to go through.
It
It's
is, indeed.
not an easy process.
No.
There are a lot of good athletes in the area high schools that we're trying to. Some of those selections are very hard to make, and sometimes we get a little flexible to make it work. Try to get the best players out there and try to recognize as many of the kids as we can, while while not just making it open to everybody who gets the participation trophy.
That's true. And y'all do a great job with that.
But we changed the format this year in football because we've been going with the defensive player of the year and offensive player of the year for probably 7 or 8 seasons now. But we went back to something we haven't done in a while this year and had a player of the year, and then we had a special teams player of the year.
Yes.
You mentioned Bacon Lauterbach was the special teams player of the year, and then Eli Graff was our player of the year.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter whether you looked at it as offense, defense, special teams. He had a key role in all 3 facets of the game.
He sure did.
Which was just a unique situation. You don't see kids doing that many things anymore. They're always being asked to specialize. And to have somebody who is the Swiss Army knife that can do it all is just, and excel at all of them, is just a unique situation.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it was still a tough choice because when you're defining a player of the year, is that the most valuable player? Is it the guy with the best stats? Is it the best leader? There's a lot of things that go into that. And we had some arguments that, we went on with, is this senior quarterback who has been the heart and soul of his team, does that make them the player of the year? Or does it matter what your record was? We have those arguments every year, and we've had that every year that I've been doing this on any kind of all-state or all-Daily Times or all-county team selections. We always have to get in that discussion of what are we defining it as for this particular situation, this particular season. So I just want to say, sports editor Tyler Wombles did a great job leading that, getting it together, talking to the coaches, talking to coaches outside of our area, getting some outside input, and kind of putting that all together for us and giving us a chance to put them in the paper and recognize some of these kids for outstanding years. But if you don't have a copy, you can always go buy the paper and buy a back copy. They have those for sale. So if grandson or granddaughter, you just found out they were in there and you need to get a copy of that for the scrapbook, stop on by the paper and grab a copy. They'll be happy to grab you a back copy from last week.
Will.
But time for New Year's resolutions. We're going to be a couple days early.
Let's do it.
But I'm going to give you some resolutions and give you some guidance. But you tell me basically of the world of sports, who most needs to adopt this resolution and put it on their list. And it can be a player, it can be a team, it can be a whole league. But let's start off with the fun one. For my New Year's resolution, I'm going to get my hair cut. So when you think about all of the hairstyles we have seen over this past year in 2023, who needs to put that on their list for 2024 because they don't need to look that shaggy next year?
Oh, I don't want to get in trouble on this. Huh?
Who could it be?
Oh, you go first, Donnie.
I'm going to I'll take it as a generality, Donnie.
Since it's legal in football to be tackled by
your
the
hair,
I'm going to say anyone who plays football.
And we agree on that.
And has long hair.
I have friends who
and is a running back or a back who carries the football.
Who are less than thrilled with some of the long hair showing out underneath the baseball hats in Major League Baseball, especially with pitchers. But when you can be tackled by your hair, like we saw Derrick Henry get tackled by his hair once.
Yes.
If you're playing football at any level, if you want to show that you have an understanding of your value. You can't tell me I'm afraid to get hurt and I need to opt out if you've got hair hanging out the back of your helmet.
Oh.
Because you're giving players a free shot at you.
You are indeed.
You want the most painful way to be tackled.
Oh.
Jerk down backwards by your hair while you're running full speed?
Because it's not a horse collar.
No.
It's a hair collar.
It's
and
a hair
that's legal.
collar. But so there are athletes out there who need, there are coaches out there who need to put that on their list.
Well, hairdos, hairstyles, it certainly has changed.
Well, of course it has.
We come from the older generation, and people kind of look at, that guy's an old fogey, But you go back and look at football and basketball teams back in the '60s and the '70s. Your appearance was a big thing.
Oh, our coaches
parents,
made us.
Listen,
they made us. If our ears were showing, you had to get a haircut.
You couldn't go into a meeting, basketball meeting under Coach Mears at the University of Tennessee or Coach Dickey or Coach Battle without them talking about how you looked. Your appearance was very important to their program. They expected you to have your hair cut in a certain way, a neat style, no facial hair. Of course, tattoos and earrings and all that piercing, that was, it wasn't even on the radar.
No, you wouldn't even
Mostly
it
was about hair
yes.
and facial hair for the most part, mustaches and that type of thing. But, I can't tell you how many lectures we got in the meeting room about, hey, you play the way you look. And people judge you by the way you look, and if you look like you're somebody that's, I don't know the correct word, but an outcast or whatever.
Unkept.
I guess that's the best word for it without stereotyping anybody. We don't want to do that.
I'll let you go, but I'll tell you where I want to wrap that one. Is this. I don't care what you actually wear, how long your hair is per se, as long as it's safe. But the fact that we have rules that in the women's basketball game you have to have hair bobs in to keep your hair from flying around, but the guys can have the hair the same length with no rules, I don't think that's fair. The girls women have to keep theirs in a ponytail and have it back. Guys should too, if their hair's that long.
Yeah, well, I think
that works for me.
I think today, fans they're like, I don't really care what they look like, the players look like. I'm just interested on how well they play and how good they play. I'm not so sure coaches are real proud of that, the way the players look. But it's hard for them. It would be very difficult for them to go back to a 60 or 50 type of style where everybody looks, I want to say, kind of like a West Point individual, that type of military, clean-cut, all-American type look, which is what it is. If you went back to that, they couldn't recruit. Because coaches say, well, you can go out there to that school if you want to, but they're not going to let you wear your hair that way, and you're going to have to cover those tattoos up and your ear piercings. You're not going to be allowed to do that. And you like those tennis shoes that you're wearing right there? Well, they wear this tennis shoe. Everybody wears the same shoe. Well, now nobody wears the same shoes. But when you look at these teams, everybody's got a different shoe on, and some guys have got leggings on, and it's a whole different. It's a whole different world. It's an individual game.
It is.
It's individual.
Okay. Well, next resolution. Who needs to put the top of their list? I will count to 3 before I speak in 2024. Oh. Who needs the biggest timeout at the microphone before they open their mouth?
Oh goodness.
There's so many candidates this year.
Goodness, yes.
Mike, what about you? Got a first pick? Who comes to mind from this past year? And you don't have to call them by name. You can say a general group, as in members of this particular team or a particular league. But who in general needs to put that on their New Year's resolutions?
Well,
besides me.
This is for athletes and not
for athletes. Only athletes. just for sports.
Been much easier for you to say, well, this entails everybody.
When we get beyond
politicians, you can count politicians.
You get into that, that's a whole different ball game. We're talking just about ball games.
Yeah. Saying, maybe putting their foot in their mouth on something. Is that what you're trying to say?
Not necessarily, but
just being pretty demanding on what they say or so forth. I don't know. Maybe up there at Michigan where they had the film deal and, people saw it one way and Michigan saw it another way and like it wasn't any big deal. And
I would take that. I would take Michigan's athletic departments, especially their social media accounts, as particularly needing to maybe taking a minute next year.
Yeah.
Donnie, you got anybody come to mind?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you got?
I got LeBron James.
There's another good candidate. Not calling him out, but just saying maybe you need to count to 3 every now and then.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a prime example of someone who uses his position as a platform.
And I think athletes are free to do that. But this is where why I put this one on the list. I'm okay.
He's not the only one.
I'm okay. I'm really okay because, what I do for a living, when they get up and say something off the wall wrong, that's really easy story for me. You've just made my night a lot easier.
Yeah.
But because you've made a story for me outside of what just happened. But I'm okay if you want to say whatever. But be responsible for what you say.
Sure.
Own what you said. And
he's one of many.
Be willing to pay the price for it. Because I'm sorry the next day doesn't take away the fact that you said it to begin with. Mm-hmm. So, do we have time to go anymore? Or do we need to move on?
We got 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay.
Left.
So, who needs to put the act? I will act like I have done this before on their 2024 list.
Oh, been there.
I've
been there.
I have scored a touchdown before. I have made a sack before. I have hit a 3-pointer before. I have won a game before.
I'm going to go with Brian Day up at Ohio State. I'm going to go with him because he's lost 3 out of 4 against Michigan. He's on, and nobody in the Big Ten's beat him in 3 years? I think it's 3 years. Nobody in the Big Ten other than Michigan has beat him. But he's lost 3 out of 4 up to Michigan. But before that, he won a couple. And he's like, well, look, I won a couple before I lost 3 out of 4 here, So, I think Brian Day, coach up there at Ohio State.
Don, you got anybody that comes to mind?
Oh, wow.
Good. I'll tell you what. I'll let you think because I've got one I want to put on this list.
Okay, you go ahead.
Every NFL lineman who gets up after a sack and goes into any bizarre celebration.
That's a good point.
I'm like, you're being paid to do a job. The fact that you got there and got the quarterback and did your job means you did your job. It is not every single sack, especially if it's the third time you sack a quarterback. Your team sacks the quarterback in the first quarter, and you're still celebrating. You've already made your point. You just get up and walk away. That says a whole lot more than any celebrating you're going to do out there.
And that's trickling down into college and even high school now too. And they have rules against it, and it's not to that extent now, but it's getting there.
And I understand the excitement with a high school player.
I do too.
And I will give them a lot more leeway because it's exciting for them.
I can.
But when
exuberation is one thing.
When you're literally being paid to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, take pride in your work, enjoy what you're doing, but
certainly.
Not every time do you perform a task should you need to celebrate it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have 16 sacks in the season, were all 16 of those worthy of jumping up and down.
Yeah.
And
Then you might as well, call out fans for running out there on the field and out there on the court.
Oh, absolutely. Let's put them on the list.
You ought to say, heck, fire.
There is a time to tear down.
Act like you've beat somebody before, Huh?
I am all for it if you've knocked off the number one team and you weren't given a ghost of a chance, okay. But if you just happen to beat this team for the first time in 4 years, come on.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
You don't need to storm the field just because, hey, we haven't been able to do this for 3 seasons.
But if you haven't stormed the field in 40 years, you're looking for anything to storm the field now.
True that.
40 years is a long time. But if you beat these guys if you're the senior quarterback and you beat these guys when you were freshmen, that is not a chance for the fans to storm the field.
No.
Yeah. Well, Vanderbilt beat Tennessee several years in football.
Yeah.
Did their fans storm the field? I can't remember of course, I guess there wasn't any fans to storm. I don't know, but I can't remember them storming the field.
They couldn't get around all the construction at the stadium. I don't think.
And Tennessee, beat Florida for out of 17 times, they've lost 15 times, and they beat them, and they stormed. And in Alabama, my gosh, you would have thought they were going to tear the stadium apart.
They did tear the stadium apart.
They did, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah,
but anyway, make your own resolutions this year. And I didn't bring the list up just to pick on anybody, but there's some we
didn't stereotype. Boy, we could have
Well, this isn't a stereotype. I'm saying, sports is a show.
Yeah.
And remember, it's a show. It's a game.
Yeah.
These are games we're talking about.
Yeah.
This isn't life and death, and some people just take it a little bit too seriously and expect a little bit too much from everybody else. So anyway, I wish everybody a happy 2024. And I just want to close out that segment. Mike, let's go ahead and turn the page.
All right, it's time to turn the page, and when we return, the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment will be up. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Blue Tick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza. Made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Blue Tick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Blue Tick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville. The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month.
Your newspaper? That's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper, tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net. Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment, New Holland. Excellence in service.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with the rest of our broadcast crew, and now it's time for the Goatee Sports Page Player of the Week segment featuring Daily Times senior reporter Marcus Fitzsimmons, sponsored by Anderson Lumber Company, where quality service is always a priority. Proudly serving Blount County for over 75 years. Marcus, we're out of resolutions. So
we're out of resolutions, but I don't want to call this letter rip too, but since it's Anderson Lumber, we're going to have a woodshed, and we're going to take somebody back there. We're going to address the elephant that's been sitting in this room for a while. I don't think we've ever been shy about it, but going into what will be the start of a calendar officially classification year, meaning we're going to start talking reclassification, and it will not come into play for another school year, but this will be the start of it when they start gathering data and things like that. So we're going to pick on TSSAA a little bit. Anybody got a problem with that?
Nope.
No, everybody's good? Okay, good. So let me lay this out for anybody who maybe listening doesn't understand what we're going to talk about, because I'm going to use football as an example. I'm also going to touch on basketball here. In Tennessee, under TSSAA, we have 9 classifications for high school football.
We do. 6
in the public schools, 3 in the private schools. So we have 9 classes. That means last month, beginning of this month, there were 9 state championship games in football, 9 state champions, 9 golden footballs given out. Most every region in the state for football had 6 teams or fewer. And when you do the math, because ideally the way this system is supposed to work in Tennessee is you have 8 regions across the state.
Right.
And each region should have 8 teams in it. So that you have 7 region games, you have 3 games to play whoever you want to play. But you should have 7 guaranteed games against in an 8-team region. So there are 64 teams in each class. Mm-hmm. With 9 classifications, Tennessee would need nearly 600 schools participating in football to justify 9 classifications. Well, we don't have half that many. There is no reason for us to still be doing this. It is a system that is not broken, but let's say it's bent to pressure to try to shake up who gets to the state championship game and to open this up, and because we only had so many people getting there. But the 3 of us are from an age where we can remember where I did not come along until the playoffs were there, but there didn't used to be a playoff system at all. Then we had one. There was one, it was for everybody.
Right.
Then we went to the 3 classification system that worked very well for a very long time to have 3 classifications.
Sure did.
Because you kind of divided it out with the big county schools kind of fell into one, and then you had this kind of in between, and then you had one that the smaller county schools fit into, and some of the small town schools, and the bigger town schools would get into that 2A class, and it kind of worked. But then we had some expansion. We had some more schools, people moving in. And that 3 didn't seem to work, and we went 4, 5, 6 very quickly. We had to divide out the private schools because it wasn't fair, and then it was 7. Then the private schools had to have another class. So we're at 9. There is no reason for that. Absolutely no reason for that. Mike has long been an advocate that we need a system similar to what Indiana has, where you can be moved up or down depending on your success, kind of like the Premier League.
Right. They don't have as many classifications. I would like to see that and the classifications for football is different than it is for basketball.
Yeah.
I would like to see the classification for football and basketball to be the same classification. I would like to see the districts be the same, for basketball and football. I don't like we got a conference or a district for football, and then we got a different one for basketball and the other sports. I like just everything under one.
They don't even call them the same thing. They call them regions in football. Districts in basketball.
I think they've gone to more because they can make more money by going to more, and they can give more trophies out. Let's get real. That's pretty much what it is, isn't it?
It's what it feels like. And, here's the systems we've tried. We have tried a pure straight 6 system or 9 system, which is, let me just take the public schools, 6 classifications. We've done this by straight enrollment. That's kind of what we're under now. We've done it where, okay, there are 6 classifications, but we're going to play a schedule based on each, like 1 and 2A are going to play in one region, 3A and 4A are going to play in one region, 5A and 6A are going to play in one region, and you're going to play those guys, and then in the postseason we'll give you your seeding based on this formula, and you'll play in your own classification. We did the Super 32, where we put the 32 biggest schools in the state into one classification by themselves, and they all automatically got in. So it's kind of, what's the point in the regular season? And then everybody else was playing. And even doing that, with pulling out 32 schools, we still didn't have 8-team regions. No. We still had most of the regions coming up short. We need less classifications, and I'm with Mike. Up until 10 years ago, every sport, there were some exceptions with tennis and some of the individual sports, golf, some of the things like that weren't offered at volleyball, things that weren't offered at every school. But your major sports, football, basketball, baseball, softball, all had the same region. They all went to the same place. They all had the same rivals. Travel schedules were easy to coordinate, much easier to coordinate. So region meetings were easier to hold. You could get all the coaches in one meeting and get it done, and your AD knew who everybody was, and it was, better or worse, you knew everybody in the room and had known them for a while.
Sure.
So here we are now. Not only do we not have them in the same regions, we have 4 classes in basketball. We have 9 classes over here in football. We have 3 classes over here in golf. This is just a mess, and it's been made a mess to get a trophy. So, Mike, here's the thing. There are sports writers across the state who are leaning your way that what needs to be put in place is if you win the state championship, you get moved up a classification. Or if you make it to the semifinal round, you go up a classification. If you go winless, you go into a pot, and of the winless schools, so many of them will be moved down. And they're starting to grumble about that. I don't really have a problem with that. I used to say that that was not what needed to happen in high school sports.
Yeah. I don't
have a problem with it.
I hate for it to be based on 1 year, moving somebody up or down. But I think if there's a track record of somebody that's consistently has, done well, won state championships, and whatever sport, that they should be considered, moving up. But, I would much rather them, if you go to 4 classifications, the competition's going to be better at the level you're at. Is it not? Because you're not going to have them spread out as much. So that would kind of, in a way, defeat moving teams up or moving teams down. You could just go to the 4. You're going to, you take some of these schools in the state in football, my gosh, they don't have enough teams in the league in their division, to warrant them feeling good about winning a championship or even scheduling games. You got to go out and you got to schedule, 4 or 5 games. You shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to play, 7 or 8 of your games should be within your league and then pick up a couple of outside games. That's the way it should be. But it's not that way. I just think that if you go to 4 divisions and you put the teams, you got more teams in your leagues, I think it's going to up the competition. And then if somebody, if somebody warrants moving up, say from 2 to 3 or 1 to 2 or 3 to 4, based on what they've done for a few years, then I can see it happening. But I just think there's too many divisions. I mean, Coach George Quarles sat there and argued for years they had too many divisions. But I think in some respects, if you win a state championship, maybe it would mean more if the competition was better as you went on in. The first and second round games would definitely be better, don't you think, Marcus? In the tournaments than they would be right now. The first round playoff games are pretty much. I mean, you just don't see that many upsets, and you see a lot of teams in there that really shouldn't be in there at all.
Well, that's the model I've advocated for in the past. Was if we're going to keep these, at least do away with football, do away with the first 2 rounds. And you know what? You win your region, you're in. We're going to start with the quarterfinals, and it's going to take 3 weeks. There's no need for this to take 5 and have 1 in 9 teams playing in the playoffs because there are only 4 teams in the region and everybody got in.
And I think rivalries are a big part of high school sports. They're a big part of all sports. But if you keep moving these teams around and making classifications different and the leagues different, the districts different, you can't develop any rivalries, so to speak. And I think that detracts. I
think it detracts. I'm open a lot to. I used to be fairly hard set that I just thought we should reduce classifications and that be it. I'm open to about anything at this point. Because what I think I've come to, and this will, let me just mark it down in the Anderson Lumber segment. There's not a right answer here. The size of schools is not a standard across the state. The size of a county is not a standard across the state. This isn't Georgia where we have a system that was put in place from the beginning where all counties were basically the same size. This is Tennessee. We have counties of varying size. We have cities of varying size. We have city school systems of varying size. And they all differ in geography because what works for a school size in East Tennessee is almost impossible in West Tennessee. And the same is vice versa. If you tried to put a model that worked for West Tennessee in place in East Tennessee, you wouldn't have enough schools to fill those regions. So I understand the complexity of the situation they're trying to balance out. So I'm down to there's not a right answer. Maybe there's a better answer, but I think all we can find is different answers, and none of them are going to be anything worse than what we have right now.
I'm not so sure that enrollment works anymore. The state is big on enrollment. This school's got so many kids, they should be in this division. Well, is that to say that if they're in this division that they can't form great teams, in sports, that maybe they should be in another division? I mean, I don't understand where enrollment has got to play the biggest part in all of this. Of course, I came from a state at the time that I was there that had no classifications. There were no classifications in football. There was no classifications in basketball. We had 500 kids in our school. We played the biggest team in football. We played some of the biggest schools in the state. We played the Muncie schools. We played Indianapolis schools. We had Cathedral on our schedule and Franklin Central and Lawrence Central. These were big schools, but we didn't know the difference. Nobody told us you have 400 or 500 kids. Well, you need to be in this division because you don't have enough kids. I don't know where that's all come into play here. Now, maybe it does in football with the numbers, but numbers didn't matter when we played. We just felt like we could play with anybody. It didn't matter whether we played at Greenfield. We played at Greenfield, but we felt like we could play with Richmond kids or Lafayette kids or South Bend kids or Indianapolis kids. It didn't make any difference to us. And now all this division makes a difference. I would hate it. I would hate for somebody to tell me, say, well, he's a pretty good player. You're a pretty good basketball player, but you're playing in the Division I. You're not in Division IV in basketball. You're Division I, and the competition is not as good. I would absolutely hate that. Absolutely hate it.
And I agree, but I think we're at the point where Donnie wants to take a break and get to the fun part of the show.
All right, we'll take a break. It's time for a break. When we return, it's the Boyd's Sports Spotlight as Goatee Sports Page veteran Donnie Moore will have the sports headlines, and then our crew will take a look at at next year's Tennessee football schedule and revisit the Citrus Bowl. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
Since 1925, Anderson Lumber in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. But did you know Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store? You can stop in anytime and see our incredible kitchen showroom. From floors to cabinets and everything in between, Anderson Lumber's experts can help you design your dream kitchen. And then our install team will make it a reality. For anything home, we welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber, since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply.
Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system, and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093.
It's payday, and on payday, you want to have access to your money right away. When you enroll for direct deposit at Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union, your money comes to you with no waiting. It's the fastest and most secure way to get paid. Getting set up is easy. All you need is your account number and our routing number. Find out more at tvacreditunion.com.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Some restrictions apply. Ask for details.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Boyd's Sports Spotlight. And Donnie Moore, we've got the New Year's resolutions taken care of, and we've got the TSSAA all straightened out. We've made a lot of progress this morning.
We have. I'm telling you, we're doing well this morning.
Yeah. So, what's going on in the sports? What's going on around the country in sports, Donnie?
Well, let me just tell you. It's time for our sports headlines brought to you by Fast Signs. Well, the Detroit Pistons are the co-owners of the longest losing streak in NBA history, 28 games. They share the streak with the Philadelphia 76ers streak that spans the 2014, 2015, and 2015-2016 seasons. Now, should the Pistons lose tonight to the Raptors in Detroit, they would share the longest losing streak in major North American sports, 29 losses by the Chicago Cardinals in 1942 through 45.
You got to. It's so far because you tell me the Pistons, and the first thing I always think of is the Bad Boys, and
yeah,
those days are long and gone.
They sure are.
But
now they're the whipping boys.
You know,
But you know, they lost the 28th loss was in overtime to the best team, one of the best teams in the NBA. So, you know, they've got hope anyway.
You've got to have a lot of things going against you when you have a run like that.
Yeah, you do. Well, the winner of the Dodd Trophy as the National Collegiate Football Coach of the Year for 2023 was announced yesterday. The winner? Listen, boss. Mike Norvell of Florida State University. Norvell led his Seminoles to a 13-0 record, an Atlantic Coast Conference championship, a number 4 national ranking, and a date with the Georgia Bulldogs in today's Orange Bowl. The award honors scholarship, leadership, and integrity, as well as on-field success. First-year coaches and winners of the trophy the last 2 years are not eligible for the award. Norvell said, quote, "The values of athletic success, academic excellence, and character represented by this award align with what we emphasize in our program."
Yeah. So the best coach in college football.
Yeah.
Best coach in college football went undefeated.
Yes.
And he's the best coach.
Yeah.
But he doesn't make the playoffs.
No.
Well, he didn't.
Neither does the team he's
Well,
playing, and they were number 1 all year long.
He didn't make the play. How can you give him the award? I mean, he didn't make the playoffs. He wasn't good enough to make the playoffs. Marcus, how do you give the guy an award? Huh?
Well,
I think if I was him, I would say thanks, but no thanks. Give it to one of the top 4 coaches.
There you go.
I was glad to see that he was the winner, because I thought he did a heck of a job this year.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, even though what happened has happened, that they are not in the playoff, the fact he was able to win those last 3 games with backup quarterbacks, third-string quarterbacks,
defense,
able to take his defense and win those games, says a lot about the program that he is building at Florida State.
Yeah.
And it says a lot about this particular team and how he was able to coach them.
Yeah.
And I think he deserves a reward for that, because those were phenomenal coaching jobs.
I agree.
I tell you what, I think Drinkwitz out of Missouri did an outstanding job.
He deserves some kudos.
Yeah, he lost to Georgia. At Georgia, and that game was, a 7-point or 3-point game or something like that in the second half, and you got beat 10 at Georgia. And then he had LSU beat at home.
Sure did.
Had them beat at home, and then LSU scored a defensive touchdown late and won the football game there. But that's the only 2 games he lost with that football. And where was he picked to start the year?
13th.
And 6th.
6th in the East.
6th in the East. 13th in the SEC. That's a pretty strong outing right there.
Didn't have much faith in the Tigers.
Yeah, and what was it, a year ago or 2 years ago? They were calling for his head out there in Missouri.
Yeah, his seat was warm.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, things are looking up for them. They got a lot of players back next year, and I wouldn't want them on my schedule going into next year.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't want to play them.
Yeah.
Well, the Indiana Fever have won the overall number 1 pick in the WNBA draft for the 2nd consecutive year, Mike. They now have a chance to possibly add Iowa superstar Caitlin Clark to their roster. In the 2023 draft, the Fever, with the number 1 pick, selected Aaliyah Boston, another superstar, who became the Rookie of the Year. The Fever are coached by Christy Sides. Now, here's a side note. Caitlin Clark became the 15th player in the NCAA to reach 3,000-point milestone this year. She is the first collegiate player to tally 3,000 points, 750 rebounds, and 750 assists. That's the first collegiate player in history.
Yeah. Well, you know who should have been signing her up there? The Pacers.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't know. What about the Pistons?
Yeah, or the Pistons.
Or the Pistons.
Yeah.
That's right.
Forget the Fever. Huh?
First collegiate player in history. She could tally 3,000 points, 750 rebounds, and 750
I think
assists.
if she continues the pace she's set so far, she's still got the possibility of breaking the all-time women's record.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Well, Mike, talk about your cupcake games. We've talked about those in past shows, haven't we?
Yeah.
Cupcake games.
Cupcakes, yeah.
Listen to this. Number 1, South Carolina women's basketball set a new program record for fewest points allowed earlier this season when they hosted the Devilettes of Mississippi Valley State.
That's a thing?
Yeah, Devilettes.
Chargerettes.
The Chargerettes, coached by Johnny Morgan, Those are the Chargerettes.
There's the Bearettes at Sevier
and
County.
the Bearettes at Sevier
I've never
County.
heard of Devilettes
These
before.
are the Devilettes of Mississippi Valley States.
That sounds like a rejected little Debbie cake.
Yeah, the Devilettes. They South Carolina absolutely took them to the woodshed, Marcus. The score at the end of the game, 101 to 19. 101 to 19. The Gamecocks of Coach Don Staley were ahead by 40 at halftime and held the Devilettes to a total of only 7 points in the second half. Now, is that a cupcake game or not?
Yeah,
How many of those are field goals?
I don't know.
19 points. Yeah.
I mean, if you put a couple foul shots in there, you're only talking about a bucket a quarter.
Yeah. I'm telling you. That's a cupcake game right there. It's time for the NHL's Winter Classic. The annual outdoor hockey game is scheduled to start the new year Monday when the Vegas Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken meet at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, Washington. The stadium has a fully retractable roof, allowing it to cover the ice in case of rain, which might happen in Seattle, as you well know.
That'd be a good thing, given some of the things that have gone on in that game the past few seasons.
Yes. But as of now, the forecast calls for a mix of sun and clouds with temps in the mid-40s.
Well, one year it seemed like it rained, and one year it seemed like the ice was melting because the sun was shining on it the wrong way. And
well, they've had that thing on board an aircraft carrier, and I don't know what all. So that's a pretty good deal. Well, on this day in sport, December 30th, 1981, Wayne Gretzky scores 5 goals to give him 50 goals in 39 games. That's the fastest 50 and 50 in NHL history. Wayne Gretzky, he was a good one.
The great one.
He sure was the great one. 2018, Patrick Mahomes becomes the second quarterback in NFL history to throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns in the Chiefs' 35-3 win over the Raiders.
Yeah. I had to get a Patrick Mahomes youth football jersey for Christmas this year.
Yeah?
You can't imagine how hard that was.
I can imagine that's a tough get.
Yeah, I think I got mine from China. I mean, it had to come a long way. Nobody had them. They was all out.
I can imagine.
Completely out.
Yeah, that's a tough ask.
Yeah.
2020, on this day, Spurs assistant coach Becky Hammon becomes the first female to coach an NBA team when Greg Popovich gets the thumb. Got ejected. Birthdays, 1934, Fred Lorenzen. You know that name.
Yeah, stock car driver.
Yep, American auto racer. It won the Daytona 500 in 1965 and the World 600 in 1963 and 65. Born in 1935 on this day, Sandy Koufax, Baseball Hall of Fame pitcher, 7-time Major League Baseball All-Star, World Series in 1955, 59, 63, and 65, threw a perfect game in 1967.
Yeah, Casey Stengel called him the greatest pitcher that's ever played the game.
He sure did. Won the Cy Young in 63, 65, and 66. Played for the Dodgers. Born in Brooklyn, New York. And he's 87 years old today. Sandy Koufax. 1961, born on this day, a Canadian sprinter, Ben Johnson. He won the Olympic gold, won for the 100 meters, and had it taken away in 1988. Disqualified for doping. Took steroids. Born in Falmouth, Jamaica. He was the first man to run a sub 9.8 seconds. 9.8. That's flying, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Good gracious. Can you imagine running a sub 9.8 seconds in the 100 meters?
It's just, there's not many people that crack that. And the rivalry he had with Carl Lewis was, that was one of the fuels of the early 90s.
Yeah.
I wonder what classification he was in high school.
I don't know.
How much would that have mattered
they
in
got
high school?
classifications
What
in
classification
Canada?
would have mattered when a guy runs that well?
I
if he
don't
was
know.
a Division I or Division IV player or whatever.
I don't know. 1975, born on this day, 47 years old, Tiger Eldrick Woods. Eldrick Woods, Tiger, won 15 majors, 81 PGA Tour titles and 41 European Tour titles, born in Cypress, California. He's a good one. 1977, born on this day, Layla Ali, an American boxer.
That's Mohammed's daughter.
That's an unusual last name, isn't it?
It seems like that stands out a little bit for some reason.
That sure does. 1984, born on this day, 38 years old, LeBron James. Forward in the NBA, won an NBA championship and MVP in 2012, 2013, 2016, and 2020. 16-time NBA All-Star.
You're telling me Tiger and LeBron have the same birthday?
Yes, they do.
Wow.
Olympic gold medal winner in 2008 and 2012. Played for the Cavaliers, the Heat, and the Lakers. Born in Akron, Ohio. 1992, Carson Wentz, quarterback, 31 years old, Pro Bowl 2017. Played for the Eagles and somebody else now. I don't know who he plays for now.
Don't look at me.
I don't know. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina. Deaths on this day. 1970, Sonny Liston.
Sonny Liston, yeah.
World heavyweight champ, 1962 through 1964. Died of lung congestion and heart failure at 40 years old. Foul play suspected. Foul play.
Yeah, well, there was a foul play when Muhammad Ali got in the ring with him.
It sure was. He knocked him through the
flat. There was a lot of discussion about that.
It sure was.
whether he took a fall or whether he really got hit.
Yeah. And with the final death on this day, 2015, Doug Atkins, college and pro Hall of Famer, defensive end, played at UTK. Former Vol, NFL championship, 1954, 1963, All-Pro, 1963, an 8-time Pro Bowler. Played for the Browns, the Bears, and the Saints. Died at the age of 85. Doug Atkins, he was a good one. That's all for this week's Sports Headlines, brought to you by Fast Signs. Now let's bring the Boyd Sports Spotlight into focus. Back to you, Gunner.
Yeah, before we talk a little bit more Citrus Bowl, I got a sad thing happened yesterday, Donnie. The 2003 Indy 500 winner Jill DeFerrin passed away yesterday. It was tragic. He's 56 years old, only 56 years old. He was racing with his son on a race course in Florida when he became ill and pulled his car over, and he had a massive heart attack.
Oh, my goodness.
A massive heart attack, and Jill DeFerrin is gone. I was there that day. He beat Helio Castroneves. They were teammates, Penske driver teammates. Penske finished 1-2 in that 500, and Helio was just seconds behind him. It was going to be. It was a really close finish, and they both climbed the fence. Helio and Jill both got on the fence and climbed it after the race. So a really sad deal, and I guess he had posted a bunch of pictures with his family over the holidays, and just a sad time. Tony Kanaan said, well, he went the way he would want to go in a race car.
Yep.
In a race car, and that's the mentality of a lot of drivers. But gone too early for sure. 56 years old.
56.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, let's talk a little bit more about the Citrus Bowl. I've got Marcus Fitzsimmons, Donnie Moore here with me, and the game, all eyes are going to be on Nico Imalava tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but Monday. In that game. And, they're saying, well, how much pressure's on Nico. I don't think there's any pressure on him at all. I think if Tennessee wins the game, Marcus, their fans are going to come away and say, hey, great year, 9-4. Man, we're good. We're ready for next year. Bring him on. Bring on Nico. He's going to be even better next year. We're back. That's if they win. If they lose, they're going to go, bowl games don't mean anything anymore. We had a lot of guys out. Offensive line was beat up, secondary. We lost our running backs. This isn't the same team we had during the year. Nico hadn't played very much. Wait till next year. We get some practice with Nico and get everybody back in there and get settled for next year. We'll watch us then. I don't think there's anything for him to lose tomorrow. What has he got on the line?
I don't think I think that's the thing. He doesn't really have anything on the line.
No.
Now, Tennessee, as a team, I think has something on the line because there's a world. I hate to say there's a world difference between 9-4 and 8-5, but there is.
Yeah.
Because, when you think about the difference between those two, you're talking about the season you expect from Josh Heupel versus what you got at your best from Jeremy Pruitt. So I don't think you ever want to put yourself in a situation to be compared to a Pruitt season. So make that the hard line. Don't get yourself into that situation. So you prefer to be 9-4, but for Nico and for being a freshman starting a bowl game, you have a lot of things that are not optimum. Your defense is not up to par. Your offensive line is a little bit healthier, but they're not 100%. Your receiving core has been adjusting all year from a key loss. And you've got running backs where you've only got one back this year. And so you've got a lot of things that you can say, you can point to as an excuse. There's really, you can just take that as, we're just going to go out here and have some fun and see what we can do.
And to add to that, you're playing an Iowa team that runs the ball and eats the clock. How many snaps are you going to get? How many snaps are you going to get in the football game compared to what you would be getting if you were playing an SEC team in a regular season game? That's going to be a big factor too. I mean, how do you develop a rhythm if you're not on the field very much? I mean, that's tough. That's really tough.
And we'll see how he adjusts. But I really hope they take this as there is no pressure. We're just going to have some fun and try a couple things and see what we can do that we can feel comfortable about moving forward.
Yeah. Donnie, I don't want to bring this up, but he's not the strongest guy in the world. I mean, he's pretty thin.
No, he is. He's wiry.
He's sort of like the Splendid Splinter, out there for the most part. He's mobile. He's much more mobile than Milton is. You would expect him to, run the ball some and, scramble a little bit and get away. But there's that chance, I don't want to bring it up, that he could get hurt tomorrow. And then now who you looking at?
Well, you've got
walk-ons.
You've got a couple of walk-ons. That's right. You got Navy Schuler and
you have heroes in the waiting.
Yep, in the wings.
Yeah.
Well, heroes in waiting.
He's going to be waiting a while.
That's true.
He's going to be waiting, but you got to plan for that. I'm sure the coaching staff has got somebody that they've been working with.
I'm sure they've got the worst case situation book well in hand, but. I'm more concerned about that at tailback than at quarterback.
Yeah, me too.
Because you've only got one with any real experience handling the ball this year. And if we don't even know who's going to be the backup there. I mean, we have a name on the roster, but when you've got less than 20 carries in a season, I mean, that's not a lot of experience.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah. Well, I've written some keys to the Citrus Bowl down. I think the offensive line is big. If they can protect Nico, or give him some time back there, I think that's important. If they can block and get the running game going, I think you need to watch the offensive line and see how they operate on Monday. I think it's important for Tennessee to get out early and often and make Iowa come from behind in the football game. We've talked about that a little bit. You got to stop the running game of Iowa. You can't let them get in that Missouri mode and run the football at you and beat you up and get it to where your defense is. If you don't create some 3 and outs with this Iowa team, your defense is going to get a little weathered out there, Marcus.
Yep.
I think that's a big factor too. And you know what Iowa's going to do? They're going to run it and run it and run it and run it.
Absolutely.
And try to wear you down.
Winded.
And that's what happened. And that's what happened against Missouri. They wore us down. They wore Tennessee down there in the third and fourth quarter. And that's what they're going to look to do. So keep an eye on that. And how will Tennessee secondary play? You're saying, well, Iowa doesn't throw the ball much, so that's a real advantage. But will they? Will they throw a little bit more against a young secondary that hadn't played very much back there? And then plus, how are they going to tackle, Marcus? How are they going to tackle back there? You got
to have run support.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That kind of concerns me. I do like Tennessee being more athletic, and we've talked about that, and having more quickness. But look for Iowa. Can Tennessee keep Iowa from controlling the game and controlling the ball? That's the big factor. That's what it all.
Well, you
boils
mentioned
down
it
to.
earlier. Iowa's game is to hold on to the football and never let you get into a rhythm. So, and that could be what happens on Monday.
Yep.
We've seen Tennessee not be able to run the ball, not get that first down, and get stuck and mired down. So, does Nico bring something different than Joe Milton did? Yeah, but we haven't seen what that is yet. Not really. We've seen him on a drive or two where he had, maybe 30-40% of the playbook he could use.
Not in pressurized situations and not against solid, good teams.
Right.
That's where we're at. This is a good Iowa team. Listen, they're ranked 17th in the country, and they're third in defense in the nation. That's nothing to sleep on. I mean, that's a good test for a young quarterback if you can come through a game like this. But we'll see. Iowa's 7-6 all time against current SEC teams. I don't think they're going to be intimidated. They're 1-2 against the Vols. The last meeting they lost to Tennessee 45-28 in the Tax Slayer Bowl in 2015. I think Butch Jones, was he the coach? I think he was in 2015. That's the year they gave everybody big rings for winning the Tax Slayer Bowl.
I guess it was.
Yeah.
Formerly Tax Slayer Gator Bowl.
Yeah.
It's a Gator.
Yeah, it was Gator.
Yeah. So I don't know if that is that going to give any motivation to Iowa. I don't know.
No, because there's nobody left, and you can't even say the game from 3 years ago matters anymore because there's so few players left from one team to the next.
Another factor going in that might have some bearing, Iowa's had some controversy with the offensive coordinator position. Brian Ferentz, the coach's son, has been the coordinator, but the athletic director got involved because the offense hadn't been able to produce any points. And he really instigated the letting go of Brian Ferentz. So I believe he'll be on the sidelines Monday for his last game. I understand the players' markets really like him, and there's some feeling there to really win one for Brian. Win one for Brian.
There's some interesting stuff coming out of Florida about that, and it is being used to rally the players a little bit. But when they had the coordinators conference, he is not on the list. They had the tight ends coach scheduled to speak, not him. But he is still supposed to be coaching in the game.
Yep. All right, it's time for a break, and when we return, it's the Bowls Prediction segment. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee, New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment New Holland. Excellence in service. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Your newspaper? That's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper, tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
The Bluetick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza, made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Blue Tick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Blue Tick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville. The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. It's Mike Edwards, and it's time for this week's Bold Prediction segment. And I've got Marcus Fitzsimmons and Donnie Moore here. And by golly, we're going to get back into some predictions this week. Donnie, you're 14-10, 14-10. I'm 13-11, and Tony's 8-6, and he's down in Florida. He's stagnant this week.
Yeah.
And Marcus, you're like the Heritage basketball team. You're 500, 12-12, buddy.
Hey, I'm 500.
You're 500, yeah. So let's get into it. First one right off the bat, I've got number 17 Iowa against number 21 Tennessee. Tennessee is a 6-point favorite. That they were 8, now they're down to 6. So, Marcus, I'm gonna start with you. I don't know if 6 points going to be scored in the game. I don't know, but you know, if last night's Missouri-Ohio State game was any indication, that game was 3-0 at the half. 3-0 at the half. There was a three-run homer by Missouri. And they were up 3-0 at the half. There wasn't much score in the second half. It was about as bad. And of course, you know, Ohio State was playing a second and third string quarterback. Now we're playing a second string quarterback down there with players out. I'll let you go first, Marcus. You like Tennessee to pull the line?
Well, let's say I like Tennessee. I don't like them to pull the line. So I'm going to take Iowa in this because I think this is going to be like a 9-6, 10-7 type of game.
Donnie?
Yeah, Tennessee's going to pull the line easily. I'm taking the Vols.
I'm taking the Vols, too, down there. I know there's going to be a lot of orange and white down there, and Nico and everybody's going to be excited to play. And I don't know how excited Iowa's going to play, and I don't know if they're going to really be prepared for Nico, and I don't know if they know how to prepare for Nico.
They don't.
So I'm going to take the Volunteers. Number 11 Ole Miss against number 10 Penn State. Both of these teams have had outstanding years. You know, take Penn State right there. You know, they had 2 losses. Seems like it's the 2 losses they have every year. To Michigan and Ohio State, Donnie. That's the only 2 games they seem to lose every year.
That's true.
Franklin's done a great job at Penn State. He just can't get over you talk about Day losing 3 out of 4 to Michigan. This guy's losing every year to Michigan and Ohio State. They just want to win one of those games there in College Park. I guess it's College Park, isn't it? Isn't that where
College
Park, isn't it? Or is that Maryland? I don't
know.
know.
That's Maryland. Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah.
Nittany Lion Country.
Yeah, that's true.
Who you got, Donnie?
I don't
4.5. Penn State 4.5.
Yeah, I'm going to take Penn State.
Marcus? Well,
I guess I'm going to be kind of contrary again. I like Lane Kiffin's offense.
Okay.
I mean, I just kind of see this being – it's an SEC Big Ten game that I kind of like the interesting matchup too, because Penn State can say this is what we can do against somebody because it's going to be only the 3rd time they've played somebody this year. So – and it's going to be the only time they played somebody that wasn't in the Big Ten. Yeah. But for Ole Miss, this is a building stone for them too. This is where they're looking forward to saying, "Hey, we're going to be back as a contender again."
Yep. Penn State is another one of those grinded out football teams. Donnie, grind it out, run it, control the clock, control the ball, that type of thing. But they can throw it. They can throw it every once in a while. And Franklin has been pretty successful in bowl games. wherever he's been. I'm going to go with the Nittany Lions. I'm going to take Penn State and the 4.5 points. 4.5 points for them to win by 4.5 points against Ole Miss. That brings us to me. Start with number 6, Georgia at 20.5 points against number 5, left out of the playoffs, Florida State, unbeaten and without players. What do we do here? But they got the coach of the year. You know, if he's the coach of the year, let's see what he can do in this one. Let's see what he can do in this one right here. Norvell, what do you got? I'll tell you what. I think the Seminoles are just they're upset. I think they've just upset them to the point where I think they can make that within a 20.5 point game. I'm going to take the Seminoles.
Oh, is it me?
I'm over to you, Marker.
20.5. Well,
20.5 points for Georgia.
Here, I'm going to go. I think the Bulldogs can pull that, and here's why. Florida State's initial reaction after the first day or so was, well, we're going to boycott. We're just going to boycott altogether. We're just not going to play. The problem is they forgot to tell people they changed their mind about that because half the team's not going to the bowl game. This isn't the Florida State defense, and it's not the Florida State team that went undefeated at this point.
Yeah, Brian Johnson will probably be there, though.
They might ask him to play. They don't have anybody left.
He's got eligibility. Yeah, he probably got some eligibility left.
We might see the whole family on the field.
Yeah.
Florida State's got nobody left.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
but I tell you, when your back's to the wall,
I mean, that can be a rallying point. It can be something. Yeah. There's a lot. They've done some great recruiting. Maybe they're going to surprise Georgia with some weird stuff. I just have the feeling that Georgia is just as mad as Florida State, but it's been a lot quieter about it.
I'll tell you right now, if I'm Florida State and I'm a 20.5 point underdog to Georgia, and I've been left out of the playoffs with an undefeated record, if I beat Georgia, I'm raising the national championship flag. I'm getting me the biggest flag that I can find to fly over my stadium, Donnie.
I agree.
14-0. Yeah.
And that's why I'm going to take Florida State in the points.
Okay. All right. I think they got a little to play for, even though they got a third-string quarterback going. But they do, their defense, maybe they could stay close with their defense. I don't know. But 20.5 points is a lot of points.
It is.
Isn't it, for a sixth-ranked team playing a fifth-ranked team?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to number 4 Alabama versus number 1 Michigan. Michigan is a 1.5 point favorite.
Yep.
Marcus, I'm back to you. Jim Harbaugh up there, they've had all kinds of controversy and so forth go on all year long. Alabama has been on Lucky. Out of the 4 teams in the playoff, Mr. Lucky is the Tide of Alabama.
1.5 is pretty much a who's going to win type of line. I'm going to go with the Tide. And let me say, if some of the things that had happened to Michigan has happened to Alabama, the shirt would say Alabama against all y'all. But because it's Michigan against everyone. But I don't think in the top tier, I don't think there's a team that has improved as much from August to December as Alabama. They've won ugly, but they've gotten better along the way. And now it seems like it's a team that can beat you throwing the ball, that can beat you running the ball, can beat you with defense. It just seems like, no, they're not going to be a dominant team that's going to blow anybody out by 3 scores, but it just seems like they've got that will to win now.
Donnie Moore, do you like the Tide? I mean, here's the Tide. They jumped from 8th to 4th, 8 to 4 with a win over Georgia. They weren't like jumping from 5 to 4, 6. They were 8th, and they jumped to 4, and they leapfrogged Florida State. And here we are. We're talking about an Alabama team that could win a national championship and probably shouldn't even be there.
I agree with you, and and the rumor has it that if Saban wins the national championship this year, he's going to retire.
Well, that'd be a real blessing for everybody else in the SEC, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Tide.
All right.
What about you, Mike?
I'm taking the Crimson Tide, and I don't like them. I respect them.
Time for one more.
I respect them, but I don't like them. And I know they're in the SEC, but I don't know. I'd probably root for the Russians if they were playing Alabama. I just don't care much for them, but I do respect their program, and I do respect their coach, and I tell you, when they get down to the playoffs, they're tough to beat, buddy. I'm taking the Tide.
Yep.
All right, let's look at
one more.
I got one more.
Okay.
I got number 3 Texas against number 2 Washington. Texas is a 4-point favorite. Donnie.
Oh, he's putting up the sign. I'm not sure that goes with the right team, but okay.
Hook 'em horns.
Okay.
I'm taking the horns.
I've got Texas. Who you got? You going to go with Pennick and the high explosive Washington Huskies against the defensive minded
Actually,
Texas?
you know what? I think Texas will win, but I think it's going to be extremely close, and I think Washington is going to cover.
Okay. Marcus, you're the odd man out on about 4 of these 5 games, and you're.
I have a lot of ground to make up.
You're either going to go above 1,200 and look like a pro, or you're going to be in big time trouble, buddy.
I am Nico. I got nothing to lose here. I am 4 games back.
All right. There's the final whistle, and that'll do it for today's edition of the Goatee Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael back at Loud Media, our host of the Blue Tick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.
And that's the final whistle. Join us again next Saturday for the Goatee Sports Page. The best in local sports since 1978.